In 2021, the people are being constantly disempowered and disenfranchised. No one cares what you have to say as a person. Instead, we need to listen to institutions, corporations, politicians, and NGOs. These are the only ones that get to speak. Everyone else has comments disabled. And one of the few ways that the plebeians could still have a point was to use the dislike button, the thumb down feature that YouTube has. And it seems that YouTube wants to take this away from the consumer as well. Because if you think about it, like, when was the thumbs down used and when did YouTube actually care about? Well, they care about when people are thumbing down politicians, like, for example, things that the White House is putting out. It's getting massively thumbed down and it upsets the people at Google. But it's also when people are thumbing down a brand. So, for example, when Blizzard talks about Diablo for phones, or when Walt Disney pushes a product that is not very well received by the fans, or when Gillette puts out a commercial that gets thumbed down. They don't like this. They don't like it at all. So now they're talking about removing the thumb down feature. Notice how other issues which happen on the platform, and they're very important, such as people false flagging other channels or people hacking other channels, these take a back seat because they're not as important as when people are thumbing down commercials or when people are thumbing down politicians. This is what matters. This is what needs to be fixed. And I think I know why they freak out about the thumb down button so much. You see, a lot of people on YouTube are going to ask you to like, comment, and subscribe because it helps with the algorithm, right? And I have noticed that when I do ask for people to like, comment, and subscribe, the next video that I release gets better viewership. The algorithm is pushing that video based on my previous video. And videos that get a lot of likes, they also end up getting more views. Because the algorithm works in such a way to believe that videos that get a lot of traction, a lot of interaction, are good videos, right? So it stands to logic that the opposite must also be true. I can't prove this, but I genuinely think that if you thumbs down a video en masse, it's going to hurt not just that video, but that person's channel. So if you're a corporation like Walt Disney or like Gillette, and people are massively thumbing down your stuff, then it's going to affect not just that particular video, but like everything that you're putting up on the platform. And YouTube doesn't want that because these people are probably paying money for YouTube to have the ability to advertise. And they don't want to view that the platform is bad, right? They don't want to view that people don't engage with what they're having to say. Now, you may have noticed that YouTube is quite stagnant as a platform. Very rarely does it have new features. And the features that are new are not radical. They're just very small tinkerings here and there. And the reason for this, in my opinion, is that YouTube was created many years ago by a couple of coders. And when Google bought the product, they didn't bought something that was from ground up. They bought something that was already coded. And through the course of the years, more and more people worked on the code, and more people added to the code, more people tinkered with it, to the point that it's not difficult to believe that the people working at YouTube now are not the same people that worked at YouTube in the beginning. And the people who work at YouTube now are probably having a more difficult time understanding the code than the people who coded to begin with. Which means that the people who work at YouTube now are probably very reluctant to mess with key components of the algorithm, because if they do so, they might break other things. So they might actually risk breaking what is existing rather than improving it. Because that's why I think they just don't remove the dislike button. Because that would be the correct solution, right? Like, you don't like people disliking your stuff, just remove the dislike button. But they're not doing it, and I think they're not doing it is because it might actually be tied in to other things that if they were to do something like that, it would cause the entire site to crash. And it's probably another reason why they got rid of Google Hangouts, because they had problems with them, they didn't know how to fix it, or probably they realized it's more costly to fix it, so they just got rid of it. And yeah, I genuinely think like this is why YouTube freaks out about the downvote. I noticed with other channels, if you guys remember the Mundane Matt controversy, or other YouTubers which got in a pickle and upset like a chunk of the community, upset some people, and they got massively downvoted. What ended up happening is that their channels massively suffered because of it. So that's why YouTube is trying to remove it. Now, I remember there was a time when you had the star system where you could give anywhere between 1 and 5 star. Like, do you guys remember that? That was like the very early times of YouTube. But that doesn't exist anymore. They replaced it with a dislike. And now what they want to do, apparently, is not to remove the dislike button, because, again, like they would probably have to mess with other systems in order to do it. But what they want to do is to hide the number of dislikes, which is very interesting in a way, because you can actually do that already. Like, if you want to release a video and you want to disable the ratings, you can do that. But the problem with doing that is that now people can't thumb it up either. So you have a video that doesn't have any likes, which, again, the algorithm is going to not promote simply because of it. So they want to have videos where people can like it, but if they dislike it, they can't see how many other people dislike it, in order to like prevent these review bombing campaigns, if you will. And in my opinion, there's absolutely nothing wrong with a review bombing campaign. Why doesn't the company, YouTube, why don't they care when people upvote something for the same reason? Like you may have a video that shows some progressive movie or whatever, and most people aren't going to go see it, but they just thumb it up because, well, it's a progressive movie, so they agree with the message. That's not a problem, is it? Oh no, that's perfectly fine. If there is manufacturer controversy against Chick-fil-A, and a lot of people go and boycott Chick-fil-A, even though like they're not paying customers of Chick-fil-A, or they just dislike where the CEO spends its money, or the My Pillow guy. Oh, that's fine. Like they're completely allowed to do that. That is absolutely no problem. But if you dislike Disney because of, I don't know, Captain Marvel and her opinions, oh no, that's not allowed. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed. And you notice that other websites also changed their system in order to embrace this. So first of all, YouTube itself, like for the first time, came out and said that they are manipulating search results. And they put Captain Marvel at news events so that it only gets promoted by the shills, and people like Mahler and Rags would be buried under the algorithm, so people can't hear the criticisms about Marvel. But it also have like websites like Rotten Tomatoes, which shifted their entire search algorithm and started just removing negative reviews from Captain Marvel in order to make the movie appear more popular than it is. And of course, finally, I don't know how many of you guys remember, but when Blizzard had the controversy, or when Gillette did the thing, a lot of downvotes were missing. Like, there are people who documented this and showed, for example, 100,000 downvotes at 12 p.m. And then by 3 p.m., there were only 80,000 downvotes. And most people will say, yeah, well, maybe they were bots and YouTube was just trying to see which downvotes are legitimate and which ones aren't. But the problem is that you have people on Twitter going out and saying, look, I downvoted the Diablo, the Diablo for Phones commercial. And when I came back to it, my downvote was gone. Like they took away their downvote. And I remember like people on forums just saying that every 4 hours they would log in to the Diablo commercial just to thumb it down. Because now you're creating people that are legitimately upset because their customers, they want to voice their displeasure to the company and say that they're not supporting this bullshit. So they're downvoting it, right? But then YouTube goes, no, you're not allowed to dislike it. You're not allowed to thumb it. No. So now people are angry. They're like, well, what do you mean I'm not allowed to dislike? I will dislike it how many times I want. And it creates this feedback loop. Yeah. Anyway, it's interesting because, it shows what we all knew, that the actual clients, the actual customers that YouTube care about are the politicians and the corporations. The rest of the users don't really matter. And it shows based on YouTube's priorities, right? Like the false flagging campaigns don't seem to be addressed. The hacking accounts don't seem to be a major issue. No, what is a major issue is the downvote button. And this wasn't a major issue when it happened to other YouTubers. It's a major issue when it happens to politicians and corporations. Anyway, let me know what you think. And by the way, tell me what you think about my table. Because I released the interview with my Romanian friend on the couch, and people were like, you can't just talk on the couch. You need a table. You need a table because Sargon of Akkad has a table. And Joe Rogan has a table. You can't have a conversation with another person without a table. I have a table now. Is this not a good table? I hope it's a great table. It's going to be the best table ever. And if you complain, the table will just become 1 centimeter higher. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the comment section. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.